Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. I don't think there was one moment where everything snapped. It's not like she woke up one morning and decided to declare war on our marriage. No, it was slower than that, like a slow leak you don't notice until you're ankle deep in water. We were sitting in the living room. Well, she was sitting. I was standing in the doorway, holding my laptop bag, still dressed from work. I had asked a simple question. Something like, "Do you want to do something together later? Maybe watch that series we started." And she looked up from her phone, didn't even blink, just stared through me like I was noise in the background, and said it. "I'm not your toy. That's all." For words, with this ice-edged calm like she had practiced them. There wasn't anger in her voice, not even annoyance. Just cold finality. I remember blinking once, thinking I must have misheard her. "What?" She leaned back, tossed her phone on the couch like she was bored with the conversation already. "I'm not your toy. I'm not here to entertain you, to satisfy you, to be on just because you need attention." That one hit deeper. I hadn't asked her to entertain me. I hadn't even touched her in a week. All I wanted was a shared moment, some thread of connection that felt like the us we used to be. But she was already back on her phone, scrolling like the conversation was done. I don't remember what I said next. Probably something pathetic. Something trying to lighten the mood, as if a joke would fix what was clearly cracking wide open. But her body language told me everything. She wasn't interested in conversation. She wasn't interested in me. And this wasn't new. Not really. Looking back, I'd seen the signals for months, maybe longer. The way she started locking her phone, dressing differently when she went out, but lounging around the house like she couldn't care less. The way she had gradually shifted our marriage from being a partnership to a power play. Every suggestion I made was met with sarcasm or this quiet, dismissive nod like she was humoring me. Sex had gone from spontaneous to mechanical, then from mechanical to non-existent. She claimed it was stress, hormones, a phase. I believed her at first. I mean, we'd been married 9 years. People change. Life piles on. I told myself we'd work through it. But she wasn't working on anything. She was drifting further away every week, clinging to this narrative of autonomy and empowerment like our marriage was some prison she had to escape from. And what stung the most? I loved her. I genuinely, stubbornly loved her. Even when she treated me like wallpaper. Even when she started calling herself a new woman. Talking about how she was finally finding her voice. I was proud of her at first. I encouraged her to start that online course in branding and personal growth. I celebrated her freelance gigs, her new wardrobe, her return to yoga. But somewhere in the middle of all that self-discovery, she decided I was the weight she needed to shed. I remember talking to my brother about it one night over a beer. He asked me when the last time we just sat and talked was, really talked. I couldn't remember. She used to love telling me everything. I used to know how her day smelled, what bothered her, what inspired her, what she dreamt of. Now, she'd come home and scroll through her phone like I didn't exist. I could ask, "How was your day?" and get a shrug or a half lie. And I wasn't stupid. I could feel it. The distance. The rehearsed excuses. The disdain that dripped into her tone whenever I asked for the smallest thing. I tried being patient. I tried being romantic again. I tried writing her a note and leaving it on her pillow like I used to. She didn't even mention it. I found it a week later under her bedside table, crumpled like it had fallen off without her noticing or caring. Then came that line, "I'm not your toy." And suddenly, it all clicked into place. She didn't just want space. She wanted to be untethered, untouched, unaccountable. So that night, after she went to bed without saying goodnight, I sat alone in the living room and stared at nothing. Not the TV, not my phone, just the dead air between what we used to be and what we had become. She wanted independence. She was about to get it. I didn't make an announcement. No warnings. No ultimatums. I didn't even raise my voice. I just stopped. Stopped reminding her about the garbage pickup. Stopped folding her laundry and setting it on her side of the bed. Stopped making 2 cups of coffee in the morning. Stopped checking to make sure her car registration was up to date or whether the insurance renewal came through. It wasn't some calculated punishment. It was reflex. A natural recoil after being told I was no longer needed. She said she wanted independence, so I gave her exactly that. At first, she didn't notice. Or maybe she did, but didn't care. She strutted around the house like someone who had just completed a TED Talk about feminine liberation. She started wearing clothes around the house that I hadn't seen in years. Tight, revealing, Instagram-worthy. The kind of stuff she used to wear when we were dating, before comfort and routine replaced seduction and playfulness. But now it wasn't for me. It was for the mirror. And maybe for someone else on the other side of a screen. She took up yoga again. And not the kind where you go for peace and quiet. This was hot yoga at a boutique studio run by influencers who filmed their classes. Suddenly, she was sipping green smoothies at 3 p.m. and complaining that we needed to remove toxic masculine energy from the house. That was me, I guess. The toxic one. Meanwhile, I kept my distance. No eye rolls, no sarcastic jabs. Just silence. I started hitting the gym after work, sometimes not getting home until well after 8. I stopped asking what she wanted for dinner. Or if she wanted dinner at all. If I made something, it was just for me. No plate for her. No seats saved at the table. She never thanked me for the things I used to do. So I stopped doing them. And for a little while, I think she liked it. Or thought she did. The space, the solo meals, the uninterrupted time to scroll through her phone on the couch with her feet up, no one asking for a hug, a conversation, or even eye contact. I had gone from husband to furniture. And now I wasn't even that. I was air. But she hadn't really prepared herself for what independence actually felt like. Like the night her car battery died. She stood outside in the dark, arms folded, half shivering in that cropped hoodie she insisted was comfortable, even though it didn't reach her waist. She called me while I was in the middle of a shower. Voicemail. She tried again. Texted me. My car won't start. Come help me. I waited. I read it twice. Then a third time. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I ignored it. When I walked through the door an hour later, she was sitting at the dining table, arms crossed, hair frizzed from the humidity, a pissed-off look on her face that she tried to mask as indifference. You saw my message, she said flatly. I did. Silence. So, you said you wanted to do things yourself. She didn't say a word, just looked down at her phone and started scrolling like she was too evolved for confrontation. But her hands were shaking. The next day, she called a locksmith because she had locked herself out while I was at work. Cost her $180. I found the receipt later in the trash. Then came the groceries. She forgot we were low on dog food, and he didn't eat for 2 days. The dishes piled up. The bathroom sink clogged. And that tiny buzz in the garbage disposal? Yeah, that turned into a full-blown breakdown. She emailed the landlord. We own the place. I watched her flail. Not because I wanted to see her fail, but because for the first time, she was seeing what I actually did. All the invisible threads that held her version of freedom together. And now, without me holding those threads, things were starting to fall apart. She complained to one of her friends, Fiona, I think, about how checked out I was. I only knew because she left her phone screen up on the coffee table while she went to the bathroom, and I saw the message flash. He's so cold. He doesn't even care that I'm struggling. I think he's trying to punish me. Punish her? No. She punished herself the day she pushed me away and expected me to keep orbiting her like a satellite. She mistook my devotion for dependence. And now that I wasn't doing the little things, she was realizing they weren't little after all. The turning point came one night about 3 weeks in. I had just come back from a late workout and found the kitchen spotless, candles lit, some soft jazz playing through the Bluetooth speaker. She had cooked. Real food. Chicken, roasted vegetables, a glass of red wine set out. For me. She stood by the sink in silence as I walked in, not saying anything. Waiting. I walked over, poured myself a glass of water, and took my plate to the living room. She followed, standing in the doorway with her arms crossed. You're really not going to talk to me? I looked up. What do you want me to say? I don't know, she said. Anything. I gave her a long look. Not angry. Not bitter. Just tired. You told me you weren't my toy. That you didn't know me anything. So I stopped expecting anything from you. I figured you wanted your space. She blinked, and for a second, I saw something that hadn't been there in weeks. Regret. That's when she started shifting. Bit by bit. But I'd already shifted too. And I wasn't done watching things unfold. She started being nice again. That's usually how it begins. Soft smiles, better outfits, intentional touches on the shoulder that linger just a second longer than they used to. I didn't ask questions. I didn't change my tone. I just observed. She cooked 2 nights in a row, cleaned up afterward, even texted me during the day. Just once, but it was there. Hope your day's going well. The last time she sent something like that, we were still in love. At first, I thought maybe the silence had worked. Maybe she saw what she'd lost, what she'd taken for granted. But there was something off. It felt performative, like a dress rehearsal for a role she hadn't played in a while. She'd forgotten some of her lines. Then I noticed the phone habits again. She started locking it again, hiding it in the pocket of her robe when she came down for coffee. Always face down on the counter. Always with that tiny flicker of screen glow before she touched it. You don't need to be a genius to know when someone's hiding things. I wasn't looking to catch her in anything, but patterns are patterns. And the ones she had before? They were back. Late-night laughs coming from the bathroom while she scrolled. Sneaking out to grab wine and returning with nothing. The little things that don't matter on their own, but stack them up, and they start to weigh heavy. Then came the voice. One night, she stepped outside to take a call, forgot her Bluetooth was still synced to the living room speaker. I was on the couch. The music cut out. Then I heard it. A man's voice. Soft, smooth, familiar. You know you don't have to keep pretending, right? If you're not happy, you shouldn't stay just because it's comfortable. She laughed. That laugh. The one I hadn't heard in months, the real one. Light, flirty, carefree. I'm not pretending. I'm just playing it smart, she said. He's finally backing off. I just need a little more time. I sat there, frozen. Not angry. Just gutted. Then she must have realized the call was playing inside, because the connection cut abruptly. When she came back in, I didn't say a word. She smiled at me like nothing had happened, like I didn't just hear her strategy laid out like a game plan. She went upstairs. I stayed on the couch with that voice echoing in my head. That voice. It took me a full hour to place it. It was her friend Caleb. The guy who ran her yoga studio. The one she always said was like a big brother. The one who offered her emotional support when she felt invisible. I had met him once, maybe twice. He wore bracelets and always smelled like eucalyptus. He also, apparently, knew a lot more about our marriage than I did. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I was done arguing with people who had already made up their minds. Instead, I pulled back further quietly. But this time, not just emotionally. I started preparing. Pulled bank records. Downloaded files. Backed up phone logs. I still had access to the cloud account she forgot I set up for her tablet. She'd logged into iMessage from it a year ago, back when she was working from home. Never logged out. I didn't read everything. Just enough. Enough to see how deep it went. How many times she vented about me to him. How often he replied like a wolf in sheep's therapy robes, always telling her what she deserved. How he called our marriage a psychological cage. But the worst part? It wasn't the emotional affair. It wasn't even the sexting, which had started about 3 weeks earlier, based on the photos I saw. It was the fact that this was orchestrated. Caleb had been pushing her for months. Nudging. Prodding. Reframing every disagreement we had into oppression. Whispering poison in her ear like a cheap paperback villain with a yoga mat. And she ate it up. Because it gave her a story. One where she was the heroine. The trapped spirit. The phoenix who would rise once she shed the shackles of a man who held her back. And I'd been footing the bill for all of it. Her classes. Her retreats. Her sessions with him. All of it under the banner of wellness. I sat with that for 2 days. I didn't rage. I didn't drink. I didn't even cry. I just absorbed it, like a bruise forming slowly beneath the skin. And then I made a plan. I think she expected me to blow up. Maybe that's what Caleb prepped her for, that once the truth came out, I'd yell, scream, accuse, spiral. That I'd fall apart and give her even more ammunition for her victim narrative. But I didn't give her that. I gave her nothing. The day after I heard their call and found the texts, I stopped responding altogether. Not just emotionally. Practically. No reminders about bills. No groceries unless they were just for me. No small talk. I started using headphones around the house. When she asked if I wanted to watch a show with her, I said, I already started something else. When she cooked dinner, I ate in silence or in the other room. I treated her like a roommate I had nothing in common with, and it threw her. She wasn't used to silence having power. And I watched the cracks widen. She started picking fights over nothing. You're being distant. You're emotionally punishing me. Do you even want to fix this? I kept my responses short. Calm. Non-committal. Then I stopped responding at all. One night, she came home late from her studio, and I was already in bed, lights off. I wasn't asleep, but I didn't move when she walked in. I heard her hesitate in the doorway. Heard her sigh. I knew she wanted a confrontation. Or a conversation. Or something. She got silence. That silence became unbearable fast. By the end of that week, Caleb stopped texting as much. I saw it on the sync backup. His messages went from long emotional paragraphs to short, clipped replies. Busy. Talk later. Don't overthink it. The same man who told her she was radiant, divine, powerful, now couldn't be bothered to send more than a sentence. She started checking her phone constantly, then leaving it face up again. Subtle, like a baited hook. But I didn't bite. She tried shifting gears. Started acting sweet. Playing wife again. Asked me if I wanted to go to dinner, just to talk. Said she missed how things used to be. She even wore the perfume I bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago, the one she'd once called Too Strong. I told her I had other plans. She stared at me like I had slapped her. And that's when I saw it. Panic. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. Not because I knew about Caleb, but because she realized I no longer cared. There's a special kind of fear that hits someone when they lose control over a person they always thought they'd keep. She began asking the kind of questions that don't sound like questions. Are you seeing someone? No. Then why are you acting like this? Like what? Like you're done. I just looked at her. That was the moment she knew. Not because of what I said, but because I didn't need to say anything. It had already happened. She kept pushing. That weekend, she said we should take a short trip to reconnect. I let her book it. Let her pack the bags. Let her plan the itinerary. I even helped her carry her suitcase down the stairs. Then, 2 hours before we were supposed to leave, I handed her a printed envelope and walked out. Inside, a signed separation agreement. Pre-drafted. Quiet. Clean. Fair. She called my name like she couldn't believe it. Like none of this had consequences. Like everything she'd done had been play acting, and now the lights were on and it was time to reset. But I didn't turn back. I went to my brother's place that weekend. Fished off his dock, drank cold beer, and watched the sky go from orange to violet with a quiet I hadn't felt in years. When I came back on Sunday, the house was spotless. She was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, no makeup, no scent. The separation papers were on the kitchen island. And signed. I don't want this, she said. You wanted freedom, I said. Not like this. And that's when I looked her in the eyes, really looked. Not as my wife. Not as someone who once slept wrapped around me. But as a stranger who had carefully, methodically made herself into one. You got exactly what you asked for. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue. To explain. To twist it into something else. But she knew. She just stood there, arms limp at her sides, looking at a version of me she couldn't reach anymore. And then she whispered it. I made a mistake. It should have felt satisfying. But it didn't. She signed the separation papers 2 days later. I came home from work and found the envelope on the kitchen counter. Her wedding ring sat on top of it, still warm, like it had only just left her hand. There was no note. No final plea. Just silence. She was gone by morning. I didn't ask where she went. I didn't call. She left behind most of her things, closet half full, perfume bottles still in the bathroom, one of her sweaters slung over the back of the chair she always used. I didn't touch any of it. I just let it all sit, still and fading. In the weeks that followed, she sent a few texts. Not frantic ones. Just attempts to keep a thread between us. Hope you're doing okay. Let me know if you need anything signed for the bank. I miss our routines. I replied once. Take care of yourself. That was it. I think that hurt more than if I'd screamed at her. It's not that I didn't care anymore. It's that I had nothing left to give to a person who treated my love like a resource to drain and discard. Caleb? He was gone within a week of her moving out. She found out through a mutual friend that he'd reconnected with a former girlfriend, and that the last few months of whispering sweet nothings into her ear had been little more than a distraction for him. Apparently, he told someone she was too intense. Poetic, in a way. He used her need to feel important, special, validated, and discarded her the moment she became inconvenient. And unlike me, he didn't give her years. He didn't give her a home, or loyalty, or forgiveness. He gave her what she thought she wanted. And then he walked away when she became real. I didn't take pleasure in that. Not exactly. But there was a certain symmetry in how it all unraveled. After that, the text stopped. Her name disappeared from my screen. The cloud account deactivated. The house got quieter. Then lighter. I kept waking up expecting to feel hollow. But the truth? I felt clear. Like I'd stepped out of a fog I didn't know I was living in. I started filling the silence with things I'd forgotten I loved, old music, photography, the smell of coffee brewing without bitterness in the air. I met a few friends for lunch. took walks in the evenings, called my brother more, and I finally accepted something I hadn't let myself believe for a long time. You can love someone completely and still know they're wrong for you. That's the part no one tells you. That walking away doesn't mean you hated them. It just means you finally loved yourself enough to stop staying where you were never truly seen. A few months later, I ran into her at the grocery store. She was in the wine aisle, holding a bottle of red she used to love. She froze when she saw me, smiled. A nervous one. "You look good," she said. "Thanks." There was a pause. A long one. Then, softly, "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it." I just looked at her. "You said you weren't my toy," I said. "So I stopped playing." She nodded, like she'd been carrying that line in her chest this whole time, waiting for me to say it. We didn't say goodbye. We didn't linger. I turned and walked away. And for the first time in years, I didn't look back.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.